What's up, everybody? We have some big news, in my opinion, about the Kansas City Chiefs, specifically a defensive back, Jaylen Watson. I'm just going to jump right into it. This news broke a little bit ago. I was wrapped up or occupied in some meetings. I couldn't get out of there. But here's what's going on and why it's such good news. Last night, this was shared by Jaylen Watson on his Instagram story. And why I want to show this clip of him working out is because he was posting videos of him doing sprints in his rehab work. He broke his ankle, I think, during the Week 7 matchup and has been out on IR. I said, though, what we need to see is him backpedaling and cutting. He's backpedaling and cutting. Let's watch out one more time, and then I want to get into the news of what exactly happened. Basically, the Chiefs are designating him to return from IR soon-ish, hopefully. They opened his 21-day window to return. Jordan Schultz was first on it. Breaking. The Chiefs are designating cornerback Jaylen Watson to return from IR, and he will practice today. So his 21-day window to return is open. He's not officially back on the roster, but he'll start showing up on the injury report, and it's a huge boost for Kansas City. They've been without Watson. We've been without Jaylen Watson since late October due to a broken fibula that he had to get surgically repaired. And this is how big of a difference Watson makes. He recorded 32 tackles, 6 PBUs in his first 6 games of the season before the injury happened. And barring any setbacks, KC expects him to be ready for the postseason. And just another stat, Jordan Foote of Chiefs on SI does some good work if you want to check him out. He talked about this earlier this week, saying the Chiefs' defense ranked 27th in EPA per play and 29th in drop-back EPA per play. Without Jaylen Watson from weeks 8 to 14, they were 4th in EPA per play when he was around there. This is talking about the 3 games and 11-day gauntlet. They're doing much better. But the Chiefs were much better in general from a defensive standpoint, sans Charles Omenihu, who wasn't yet back, when they had Jaylen Watson. So now the question is, when could Jaylen Watson return? Well, Charles Goldman of A to Z Sports says this: Watson will get just over 2 weeks of practice before Kansas City's divisional playoff game, which should be more than enough time to evaluate his condition. If he doesn't play in the divisional round, this is the timeline right here, he must be activated shortly before the AFC Championship game, should KC advance to it, to return from IR this season. He then says this: there's reason to believe that Watson could play as early as the divisional round, though. He resumed running in early December and has been hard at work in his rehab and recovery. And Jaylen Watson has kind of been hinting at this when people were saying, hey, Jaylen Watson is probably out for the season. That was the initial reports based on his injury. Jaylen Watson then responded on Twitter, on X, and said, says who? Ended up deleting the tweet, and we're like, whoa, you could potentially return? Well, he's potentially returning for the playoffs. Andy Reid said earlier this week when asked about Jaylen Watson, he said, yeah, there is a chance he returns. I'm going to give him a slim chance that it happens, but he is potentially able to return. And guess what? His window to return is open, and that means potentially Steven Nelson, we're not going to really see him at all if that's the case. Like, if the Chiefs believe that Jaylen Watson is good enough to return, they will bring him back. Steven Nelson will probably remain on the practice squad collecting a paycheck and getting work in and practicing in case of emergency. Now, again, there's a chance he plays in the divisional round, but you want to open up his window now because you want to start getting him reps at practice to see how he's doing, to see how he responds, and to see if he's going to be ready or not. But I cannot understate or overstate, Alex. I cannot overstate the importance of Jaylen Watson's return. Yeah, I cannot overstate that enough. Like, I say that phrasing wrong sometimes. I say understate, and that's wrong. I cannot overstate how important the return of Jaylen Watson to this defense would be for a playoff game. Think about the cornerback 2 struggles we've had all season long. They've been kind of using several different guys to try to figure it out. You know, they were using Najee Johnson at first. Then Joshua Williams, Chris Roland Wallace has been out there a little bit since Chamari Connor went down with the concussion, but Chamari Connor is probably ready to play and he'll be fine. But this is just such a big deal for the defense because now you're basically coming into the playoffs healthy. All these guys are resting. Chris Jones resting. You have Charles Omenihu now. And then you could potentially also have Jaylen Watson if he's not ready for the divisional game in the Chiefs advance, whoever they play. You could more than likely have him for the AFC Championship game. There is a chance that they opened his window, like just in case he does have a slight chance of returning. I'm not going to say, oh, Jaylen Watson has a 100% chance of returning, but he's trending up in a good direction. I had some news recently that were saying, hey, he could be coming back. So we'll just kind of see if he's actually going to be good enough to go in a game or not. If he is, huge for the Chiefs' chances of three-peating because you'll have Trent McDuffie, Jaylen Watson, and everybody else firing. That was the biggest struggle for this defense. Once Jaylen Watson went down with the ankle injury, you were giving up a bunch of chunk plays. The defense took a step back in EPA per play. It was just clearly evident basically with every single statistic you could find. And I was coming in with the mindset for the playoffs. I've said this before. Oh, the Chiefs, if they want to three-peat, which I still believe they could do without Jaylen Watson, this was before the Jaylen Watson news, if they want to three-peat, the offense is going to have to carry. Well, you have Hollywood Brown now back on the offensive side of the ball, and they clearly are better with him out there. Man coverage beater, getting open, 7 targets a game in his 2 games back from Mahomes, catching around 5 passes for 50 yards in Hollywood Brown's first 2 games back. That's what he's averaging. That's incredible. So I was thinking, oh, the offense is going to have to carry, and the defense, like, they'll do their best. They're still a good defense, but if the offense wants to win these games in the playoffs, they're probably going to have to put up 30-ish points. That might not be the case if Jaylen Watson returns. They won't have to necessarily put up 30 points. Now, I still think they can do it, the Chiefs offense. You can put up around 30 points a game. They put up, 27 and 29 the last couple of weeks, and they could have scored more against the Texans and kneeled the game out. But now you're going to have potentially Jaylen Watson back, and that's going to help take pressure off the offense, and it's just going to help the team ultimately be as rounded and as good to go as they can be for the playoff run. No team in NFL history has ever three-peated. Not once, ever. That's how hard it is to accomplish. The Chiefs are trying to do that, and you've got your best steps, or you're putting your best steps forward now as you get ready for the divisional round, the AFC Championship, and the Super Bowl. You're going to be rested. You got Hollywood Brown back. Maybe we'll see about DJ Humphries at left tackle this Sunday against the Broncos. If he looks good, you'll have DJ Humphries left tackle. Joe Thuney kicks back into left guard. That's going to help the run game. Pacheco's rib should get rested or healed up, hopefully, as he rests. And then you have Kareem Hunt. He'll come into this game healthy. Again, you have Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy. He's another guy that's coming into his own, and he's further been helped by the return of Hollywood Brown. He's the number 1 target for Patrick Mahomes late in the season. On the entire year, he's second in targets behind only Travis Kelce, and then you can't forget about Kelce. You're going to have Kelce. He's going to be rested, and these guys are not playing around. They're not playing around when it comes to a three-peat. When they won last year's Super Bowl, Mahomes was on the podium saying, I want to do it again. These guys are psychos. They live, eat, sleep, and breathe W's. That's what they want. The regular season was basically a very long preseason as they were trying to figure things out, and they're now getting healthy at just the right time. You're going to get a key player back potentially in Jaylen Watson in the secondary that is going to help out Trent McDuffie, Brian Cook. It's going to help out everybody, and if you could be a little bit more sticky in coverage, it's going to help coverage sacks come as well. And you've got Omenihu, Chris Jones, George Karlaftis kind of turning the heat up recently. You got Mike Dana. You've got players. You've got pieces. And this is the best case scenario, man. I cannot believe, Jaylen Watson is a freak, dude. How can you come back from surgery and recovery? Like, nobody was saying he was going to be able to come back before the end of the season. He started progressing so well in his rehab, the tune started changing. So you've got 2 guys back now, Hollywood Brown and hopefully Jaylen Watson as well, that kind of defied the odds and the timeline to return. And that is some great freaking news. Daryl, thanks for the 19 months, and Brian with the membership as well. Somebody said, are you high? Oh, no, you're talking to somebody else in chat. I'm like, I'm not high. I'm high on life. I'm excited about this return. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. That's the news. That's the updates. We'll get the final injury report here later. We're not really worried about the Broncos game. Remember, if the Broncos win, they're in the playoffs. If the Broncos lose and the Dolphins beat the Jets, the Dolphins are the 7th seed. If the Broncos lose, the Dolphins lose, and the Bengals beat the Steelers, they are the 7th seed. So there's a lot to watch. There's a lot to kind of look at this week as these games play out. Both of the AFC North games are going to happen on Saturday, and then the Sunday game for the Chiefs is at 3:30. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. We'll get the final injury report later today. It's going to be a weird injury report. Don't read into it too terribly much because they're going to rest all the key starters. Mahomes won't play. Kelsey won't play. Chris Jones isn't playing. They're going to rotate around the offensive line. Hopefully you get the young guys getting some reps. You test out DJ Humphrey's hamstring. It's just a weird game. So don't read too much into the injury report, but this is some great news as the Chiefs get to rest key starters this Sunday. You get a rest all next week. I mean, you'll be practicing, and Andy Reid said they're going to ramp up practices because you're not going to have a game. So they're going to take things up a notch at practice. But then you're going to let all these other teams duke it out during the wild card round. The Chiefs get the first round bye, get to watch, get to prepare, and then you get ready for the divisional round. Some great freaking news for the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you're a Chiefs fan, you have to be elated because you're coming in to the playoffs at near full strength. Yes, I wish they had Rashee Rice, but that's not going to happen. And they have DeAndre Hopkins now because of that. So as close to full strength as you can be is what the Chiefs are going to be heading into the playoffs. Great news. And it only increases the odds of a three-peat. Let me know your thoughts on all that in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go.